Every summer in Chicago, the sunshine spotlights the city's spectacular skyline. Its luxurious lakeshore, marvelous monuments, and the over 200 neighborhoods in the city. And it also brings to light two of the greatest sports franchises in the world. On the north side, it's the Cubs. On the south side, it's the White Sox. This is Crosstown Crosstalk.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of Crosstown Crosstalk, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parise.
And I'm Joey Parise.
And we are here to bring you baseball. That's it in a nutshell. Baseball. I love baseball. Joey loves baseball. It's good to have you here, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is our game, right? This is what we grew up on. This is America's game right here. So I'm excited to be talking baseball all year long with you.
Absolutely. And if you recognize the two incredibly hot faces on the screen right now, we originally started with the Barroom Network doing Bar Down Blackhawk Talk. We still do that every Wednesday at 2 p.m. We're talking hockey every day, every time on that show. But here we're going to take it to the diamond. Yeah. So to get things started, I kind of just wanted to have a little intro, let the people know about our baseball knowledge. They know plenty about our hockey. So what do you got? Favorite team? Why? What's going on in your baseball brain?
Yeah. So unlike other sports, other sports, you look at hockey, football, and, I'm typically the Boston team. Those are my teams. But you look at baseball and I'm White Sox, and then obviously Red Sox as well. But it's the only sport where you can really say that, Joey's favorite team comes from Chicago, because I would say it's a dead tie with the Red Sox. And, they never really play each other in at least a harmful way at least. I would love to see it this year, and we'll get into that a little later. But both teams have never been playing at that elite level, at least in our time, to where it really mattered to like both teams. So, the White Sox and Red Sox are my teams.
Yeah, the only time I could think of, the White Sox played them in the DS in 2005, but we didn't care too much about the Red Sox at that point in time.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard White Sox fan my whole life. We got Southburb Hitman, my favorite White Sox podcast on the planet, saying, "What's up, gents? What's up? We are happy to have you guys. Welcome aboard." I'm a big White Sox fan, but the purpose of this show is, if the best way to explain it is, if you've seen Bar Down Blackhawk Talk, you know that the point of that show is to bring the National Hockey League to the broad Chicago Blackhawks fan. So we kind of close in on the whole league while talking about the Blackhawks as well. That's the point of this show. We're going to talk about the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox pretty much dead even, and kind of sprinkle in the rest of Major League Baseball in the meantime as well. So what do you think on the show? What are your thoughts? What do you want to bring?
Yeah, I'm excited. And just like you said, I'm excited to bring that, third-party baseball knowledge, around about the MLB as a whole, not just Chicago Cubs or Chicago White Sox, but it's going to be fun talking about some of that action that's going on around the MLB that not many people hear about.
Exactly. So, the White Sox and the Cubs, they take precedent to the baseball mind in the city and probably in the state of Illinois in general, along with the Cardinals in Southern Illinois. But I think the game is better than it's ever been before, but it might be as least popular as it's ever been. I know the TV ratings say different sometimes, but there's just so many cool things going on around the league right now. You got guys with their swag and, doing cool things, these electrifying pitchers across the league. I think of guys like Trevor Bauer with his YouTube channel, and guys like Tyler Glasnow throwing 99 miles an hour. Even in our own town, a guy like Michael Kopech always comes to my mind. So what are some things that you're hoping to include?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said about the swag. You mentioned Trevor Bauer, and just a few weeks ago, that whole Padres thing and the bat flips and his sword celebration and all that. And I love that stuff in the game of baseball. So it'll be cool highlighting stuff like that really gets the fans going. So
Absolutely. And to kick the show off, I couldn't think of a better way. I write for a website called fansided.com. That's what I do. And I love it so much. And it was a great privilege when I found out that a guy named Robert Murray would be joining the crew. And I'm very proud to, consider him someone that works for the same company as I do. I think he's the perfect guest to have on first, and we're going to welcome him on in just a couple seconds here. Welcome to Robert Murray, who is well known for breaking the Fernando Tatis Jr. signing, amongst other things. He does great work for fansided.com. He has his weekly clubhouse. There's so much good work coming from Robert. We are so happy to have you, Robert Murray.
And I appreciate you guys having me, and I appreciate the warm welcome too.
Absolutely. So the baseball season's well underway. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, can't thank you enough, because I think you're the perfect guest for this show.
No, I appreciate it. I'm stoked to be here. I appreciate all your support, by the way. Now that I can actually see you face to face, I see you retweeting all my stuff. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan. So Joey and I, we kind of wanted to just get into a little Chicago baseball and, maybe a little MLB if we have time sprinkled in. I kind of want to start with the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
You're well in tuned and plugged into Major League Baseball. And I know on the north side right now, you got guys like Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant. They're all on expiring deals. And some people are wondering, are they going to get traded? Are they going to re-sign? What's going on? Do you have any insight or knowledge, or even just a straight up opinion on what you think can happen with the big three on the north side?
Yeah, I look at it right now and I see what they're all doing. And if we're talking at the trade deadline, I think any player that has a greater chance or the greatest chance of being traded would be Chris Bryant. I think he's having an outstanding season. He's been in the MVP discussion early on. I know there's a lot that can change, but he's been brilliant at the start of the year, and it kind of settled down concerns about him slowing down or not being an elite player anymore. And I don't think there's a player who's had his value impacted more than Javier Baez. With what he's done this year and how he's struggled, and his strikeout rate is just astronomically high. He's got little value right now, and I think the Cubs are going to have a really hard time trading him at the deadline. In his free agent market, if he continues this, he could end up looking at a similar offseason to a guy like Marcus Semien, where he ended up settling for a one-year deal, but for less money than that. He's been that bad this year, which is kind of surprising, because I always consider him to be one of the game's elite shortstops. But entering the season, I even heard from a couple of scouts who thought that that he could end up having, or that he was overrated. I guess is how I would phrase that. There was a couple of scouts I talked to who felt he was overrated, and so far he's kind of proved him right. But if we're sticking to the offseason and everything, I think with they're going to end up looking completely different next year. I think that's very safe to say. I think Rizzo's going to end up being the most difficult one, or is going to be the most difficult one to part with, but I think he's going to end up going. I know people are already talking about the Angels as a fit. Baez could return if he wants to maybe reclaim his value before going on the open market again. And I think Bryant's going to be gone too. It's going to look like a completely different team, and this is going to end up being the last year of what was a really strong foundational rebuild by the Cubs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Robert, quick question here. So you mentioned that they'll be looking completely different next year, but what do you see them doing like throughout this regular season? Do you see them adding anything, or just kind of staying put and playing out this year?
Yeah, I think that depends on how the next couple of months go. And they're not like completely out of the NL Central race. I don't think any team is, and not even the Pirates are right now. So if they continue on this pace, I could see them maybe standing pat at the deadline, or maybe adding one or so more pieces, or they could even listen on their top guys too. But if they stay around the 500 mark, I think they would just mostly stand pat and be open to any kind of situation if the right opportunity presents itself. But I can't see him doing anything big unless they go on a huge run and want to make one last shot at a World Series with his current team.
Absolutely. So let's kind of switch over to the team in Chicago that's having a little more success right now.
Yeah.
Despite some of the issues with the manager that happened over the last week or so before kind of this little 5-game winning streak that they're on right now, Tony La Russa was in Jeff Passan's piece earlier about, issues in people trusting him, a handful of players with that issue. And then within a day, the extra innings rule that he didn't know, and other MLB managers were claiming that it was clearly made to them during spring training. What's your take on Tony La Russa?
I was not a fan of the hire when they first made it. I thought Bob Nightingale was nuts when he reported. I shouldn't say nuts, but I thought it was kind of out of left field when he reported that La Russa was a candidate. And then lo and behold, things slowly started to leak that he was Jerry Reinsdorf's number one guy. And they ultimately ended up hiring him even after the DUI thing. And I think he's been about as expected, although I can't say anybody saw him not knowing what a rule was for extra innings. I thought that was a really embarrassing moment, and I felt bad for Rick Hahn because I cannot picture any scenario in which Tony La Russa was his number one guy. That was bad. That's putting it rather lightly too.
Absolutely.
But the White Sox are a really talented team, and I think he knew that going in, and they've done really well despite La Russa. I think he's helped them in some situations, but I think no matter who they ended up hiring, I thought they were going to end up being a really successful team. And if we're going to see La Russa kind of impact them in a negative way, that could be in the later part of the year where the situations are a lot more stressful when the situations become more difficult. But so far, so good. And they look like the most dominant team in baseball right now with how everything's going on. The last 4 or 5 games they've scored, almost 10 runs a game, which is just,
they're on a 4-game streak of having 9 runs or more.
Yeah, which is incredible for them. And knowing that they've done it without Jimenez or Robert, they're pretty good. They're very good.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you bring up Jimenez and Robert and those outfield injuries. Do you think it's necessary to try to fill those injuries and maybe add an outfield piece while these guys are not playing? Or do you think it's going good the way it is and there's no need to just let it keep going until these guys are 100% healthy?
Yeah. My instinct would be to add at the deadline. They've already added so many different pieces to this team. I mean, they've done it over the last couple of years with Grandal and to starting pitching as well. And I would look to supplement it if the opportunity presents itself. I don't know exactly who's going to be available at the deadline. I know a bunch of teams are trying to figure out exactly what players are going to be available, but if there's an opportunity to add a really good outfielder, I think they should absolutely explore it, because knowing their injuries and Robert, I don't know if he's undergoing surgery. I don't know if that's
no, he's not. They announced he's not.
Okay,
he's having rehabilitation.
Yeah, and that's a risky thing, not undergoing that surgery, but that's his decision, of course. But I would look to add a player via trade that they believe is an impact player. I think that can only help their chances in the postseason. And obviously, with how they've built this roster, they're going for a World Series, not for just this year, but for all these years to go. So maybe they can even look for a guy who's controllable too. I know those guys cost more at the deadline, but with this kind of a team, you're going to just want to add, just to try to maximize this potential.
Absolutely. They're a fun team to watch too. And you think about inserting Robert and Jimenez back into the lineup once they're healthy, who you taking out, Andrew Vaughn, Mercedes, but that's for way down the line. A team that they were eliminated by last year and could be considered a playoff threat later on in the year is the Oakland Athletics. And we all know about what's going on right now with them and their situation with the stadium and the city of Oakland.
Yeah.
Do you see them playing in Oakland beyond next season or whatever the case may be? Where could you see the A's ending up?
As soon as I saw the report from Passan, I kind of realized just there was a real likelihood that they would not play in Oakland going forward or after next season. And then all of a sudden I saw one of their high up officials say that they're not going to be able to break new ground on the stadium until 2027, which is a lot later than what they were saying before. And at that point, I was convinced that they're not going to be in Oakland for that much longer. And Vegas is looking like a real opportunity. I know Major League Baseball wants to get a team in Nashville too. But as soon as the 2027 mark was thrown out there, I think the A's basically were going to, their fate was decided that they were not going to be in Oakland going forward. And it's a sad thing because I have a lot of Oakland fans in my mentions, and they're very passionate people and they love baseball in Oakland. and knowing that they've already lost the Raiders and they might lose the A's in the span of 4 or 5 years, that's a gut punch. So I hope things work out, but my optimism for that right now is not high at all.
Absolutely, I agree. And they share the Warriors with
That's right.
San Francisco, so it's like the A's are a storied franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very bad time for Bay Area sports, especially for the A's, or for Oakland, I should say. It's you kind of the writing was on the wall when over the last couple of years or so, because there was rumblings that it just wasn't going to end up working out, and then Passan's report, and then everything you're hearing from high-ranking officials and people behind the scenes, it kind of seems like a foregone conclusion that they're going to be out of Oakland before too long.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Oakland, especially because they're having like a pretty good year off the start here. But for what, in your opinion, what's one of the biggest surprises so far in this short MLB season we've had, good or bad for you, that you've seen throughout the year?
I'm going to give you guys a bonus answer. I'll give you 3 of them. So, and I'll give you one that's White Sox related too. I'll start off with that one. I did not think coming into the year that Mercedes was going to be as good as he was, and seeing him sustain it is just absolutely remarkable to me. And what is he getting? 370 something and change now?
Yep, he just passed Trout.
Yeah, which is incredible. I never saw that coming, and they bet on him when a lot of people inside the organization and even outside the organization were kind of hoping for Lucroy to win that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it, Dallas Keuchel, who ended up coming out publicly and kind of defending Lucroy? It was before he got released.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He said it was the best catcher that ever received him.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I give La Russa in the front office a lot of credit for that, because they identified him and believed that he could end up being an impact player. Maybe not to this extent though, because he's on a pretty good role for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd also say the San Francisco Giants. I did not see them being this good at all. I'm like, full disclosure, I grew up a huge Giants fan. My dad's a Giants fan, so I hear Giants talk all day, every day, and I absolutely love it. And I'm a big believer in Farhan Zaidi. I think he's just an absolutely brilliant guy. But I did not see him turning around this team to this extent this soon. And knowing that they have one of the best records in the National League right now is a testament to just how good he is and the job that Gabe Kapler's done. Their pitching staff is dominant. Their offense, look at Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford. It's just, it's impressive. I don't think it's sustainable offensively, just because Posey, he hasn't put up numbers like this in a very long time, and Crawford is also in the same boat. But it's very impressive what they've done. And on a more negative note, looking at the Minnesota Twins, I thought they were going to end up being at this top of the division, or near the top of the division again. And what are they? They're almost 10 games, maybe 8 games back in that range.
Yep, 9. It was 9. They're 10 games under 500.
Yeah, it's like, did you guys see that coming at all, or no?
Absolutely not. I actually was nervous that if the White Sox had a fork in the road, it was Minnesota, and they're leading 2-0 in the 4th inning, trying to sweep them right now.
Just, but it's the division is turning. Obviously a lot can change, but this feels like the White Sox division to win, and potentially win by a lot, especially with how things are trending right now. The Twins are not ready to sell at that deadline, but if they are, they have a lot of really interesting pieces on that team that they could end up selling. I think Andrelton Simmons would end up being somebody teams would start circling around, just because you can never have too good of a shortstop. I think defensively what he does, offensively he's better than what he was, but defensively he's very good, so he'll be a valuable guy. And I'm very curious to see how this plays out over the next month or so. But this is the White Sox division to win, and we've really gotten to see that over the first 6 or so weeks of the season.
So we have a question in the chat that I just want to get to before we let you go. Someone asked about you revealing that there was a player in the MLB with the baseballs. I don't even know what he's talking about.
The umpiring.
Yeah.
Oh, the umpiring.
Yep.
Do you have a response to that?
Yeah. It's a lot. There's more than one person that I've spoken to that feels that way. And it's an issue that players and executives and coaches are very passionate about right now. That the quote that I put in my story, I can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but the word brutal was in there in the quote. It's I don't think baseball has ever had an umpiring discussion as strong as this one, just because there's been so many controversial things that have happened, especially with the umpires. There's how do I want to phrase this? With the robot umpire discussion, how it's been it's ramped up in recent years. I think that argument has never been stronger. And I've been someone who's a traditionalist who I like having the real umpires, but we want to get the game right. We want there to be, I mean, I think there's credibility, but you want as much credibility as you possibly can with what these decisions are. And even if they get sent back to New York for the replay, it doesn't always feel like they get them right. And you can kind of take away that element if you end up bringing in robot umpires. And I think the argument for that to be made is stronger than ever. And I think a lot of people behind the scenes feel the same exact way too.
Absolutely. It's interesting hearing it from players rather than, fans like us or even people in the media, because of of course we're going to complain about the umpiring. But when you got guys like, I don't want to name, I mean, everybody knows Angel Hernandez, when he misses a call two inches off the plate and he's ringing guys up, it could ruin, it could cost guys lots of money.
It can. And you really got to see that in the series with Hernandez with the Kansas City Royals, with what Matheny ended up coming out a day later after one of them, where he admitted that that Hernandez was right and that he was wrong. I feel that very real about the. I was the same way for a long time, so I know what you're saying there. But I think it was one person. Who was it? It might have been Matheny. I don't want to misquote him or anything, but he basically said it was every single time Hernandez was an umpire in their series that something happens, and there's a lot of people who feel the same exact way, like about Hernandez and even some of the other umpires. I got to see it. Oh boy, who was it? There was one umpire that gave the Brewers fits for years when I covered them up close. I can't remember who it is. I can't remember who it is, but anyway, or Mike Esterbrook, that's the one.
Okay.
He's given some other teams besides the Brewers a lot of issues. So it's not just Hernandez, but Hernandez is a primary punching bag for sure.
Yeah, he takes crap all the time, and it makes you wonder why the league just doesn't do something about it. Like, there are people, as you saw in the chat, who hate the robot umps. There are people that want it. There's no right or wrong answer. We just all want baseball to be called properly. However you get there, it's not on us to figure it out, but we'd like to see it for sure.
And this also makes me glad that I'm not Rob Manfred, who has to make these. That would not be a very fun time for me at all.
Yeah, especially after the last year and a half that he's had too.
Yeah.
With the pandemic and the Astros and all that, it's not probably not the best time to be Rob Manfred right now.
No, that's a very good way of putting it. That's a very good.
Absolutely. Well, Robert Murray, thank you so much for joining our podcast. This is our debut episode. We normally have a hockey show. We normally have a hockey show. So we wanted to have you on. I work for Fansided as well, and I figured there'd be no better guest for us to have on than you. So we greatly appreciate it.
No, it means the world that you said that, and hopefully we're able to do this again sometime pretty soon, because that'd be pretty.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you again. I'll reach out throughout the months of the season and throughout. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yep.
Thanks again.
Thank you for coming on. Yep.
I appreciate you.
All right. That was Robert Murray. First ever episode of Crosstown Crosstalk had a big guest like that. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. I would love, and he kind of alluded to it, I would love for him to come back on maybe later in the season, toward as the season's winding down, closer to playoffs. But yeah, that was great. We could talk with him for hours.
Absolutely. So it was kind of right in the middle of our intro to the episode and what we were trying to say we were bringing to the table here. And
it's just that. Everything you just saw, that's what we're trying to bring to the table.
Exactly. We just want to talk about baseball.
Yeah.
We'll primarily focus on the two teams that are closest to us. But who's your favorite player, position player or pitcher? Let's make it a little personal for a little bit, and then we'll get into some more analysis.
Yeah. So my favorite player, position player, is Mookie Betts. He played in Boston for majority of his young career, won a World Series in 18, and he was just the guy. And then everyone knew he wasn't gonna stay, he wasn't gonna stick around. He wasn't gonna sign long term, I should say, with Boston. And then the trade happened, and a lot of Red Sox fans felt the same way I did, where like you're not mad, you're not anything but sad, because like that's your guy. He gave you everything he had. You know, he was our MVP. He brought it in the playoffs, and it just kind of stuck with me. That love for him stuck with me as he plays and continues to dominate the league in Los Angeles. So I think it'll always be Mookie Betts for the duration of his, tenure. So I'll let you go with your position player, and then we'll switch to pitcher.
Yeah, and I wanted to preface for the fans listening, we were talking about players that don't play for the White Sox. So
yeah. Well, you mentioned that earlier to me. So
yeah, so just so people know, we're saying favorite players besides ones on the White Sox because those are obvious. Those are all my favorite players. I would say my favorite position player in the league right now has to be. I actually was kind of leaning towards Christian Yelich because he's just so much fun to watch. When he's at his best, he makes the Brew Crew a significantly better team. And I kind of like where he came from. Like, he was with the Marlins. He was just a good player. Then he got to the Brewers and he became an elite player. So, and I know you like Yelly too.
yeah, I love Christian Yelich, and he's probably my number 2 pick. I'm very surprised to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, I've always been a big fan of Yelich. I've never had the luxury of having him on my fantasy team or anything like
Yeah,
that.
no, he brought me my first fantasy baseball championship. So
Yeah, Christian Yelich is really fun to watch, and he's just a cool dude too. I've listened to so many interviews. If I can think of any position player in the league to have on the show, Christian Yelich is like top of the list. And that's not just going on favorite players, that's going on personality, who I think would be good for the audience. So what about pitcher? Non-White Sox pitcher? Because I know if the White Sox were included, I know who you would pick.
yeah, we'll talk about him a little later, but non-White Sox pitcher is tough. There's not, pitching. It's not like hockey where I have it's like my goalie. That's my thing. Pitching to me, it's like I'm gonna pick a guy who I wish there was more of people like him in the MLB. There's not, there never is, and there might never be, at least in the near future. And it's Shohei Ohtani. I love the fact that he is a good pitcher, better than average, and he'll come up to the plate and be a better than average hitter. I love that. I wish there was more of that in the league. I don't understand why people don't strive to be that, but Shohei Ohtani is a fun guy to watch, and kind of gets shadowed by another guy who plays in the Los Angeles Angels. They're not in Anaheim anymore, are they?
Well, they are, but that's not with how they're branded.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, he gets shattered by Mike Trout, obviously, but Shohei Ohtani is awesome in the lineup, and then when he steps on the mound, he's just as awesome.
Did you see 2 days ago he pitched, and then they wanted to keep his bat in the lineup, so they switched him to right field after, literally like a little league game.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish there was more of that in the league, but he's really the only guy who can throw a game and then throw a game dominantly and then come up to the plate and be that successful.
Yeah, and he had to go to right field instead of DH because the Angels forfeit the DH on days he pitches because they'd rather him hit than use a DH.
Which is crazy that you can forfeit your DH rule.
You could do it without your pitcher hitting too, in like extra innings and stuff. If you make double switches,
it's crazy. And we can do a whole segment on this, but it's crazy that like they're able to forfeit the DH rule, but the NL can't have a DH if they want.
Yeah, well, we could scream at each other about the DH rule in the NL, further and analysis on that in future shows because I know we both have some strong opinions on that. For my favorite pitcher, I have 2 that aren't on the White Sox or the Cubs that I like. Trevor Bauer, I'll give an honorable mention to just because I love his YouTube channel and the insight that he brings to the baseball fan. And, walking around the stadium, showing workout rooms and routines and what makes him run and stuff like that. So I would probably go him as an honorable mention. My favorite pitcher to watch, though, is Tyler Glasnow, Tampa Bay Rays. He came over for the Pirates in the Austin Meadows trade. And I really just love watching him pitch. He's kind of, he throws really hard. He mixes in some nasty breaking stuff. I just think that's truly a guy I like to watch. Tampa Bay Rays, Tyler Glasnow. Whenever the Rays are playing and he's pitching, I watch, no matter what.
Yeah. Honorable mention for me is just going to be Jake DeGrom, just his pure domination. But I feel like that's a chalk pick.
Yeah.
But I wasn't always a big fan of DeGrom. You know that. But he's proven me wrong. This guy's the number one.
Yeah, a lot of my following on Twitter comes from the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. And I used to get people going like the Garrett Cole versus Jacob DeGrom stuff. I wasn't even a troll when I used to say that I thought DeGrom was better than Cole. I still think that. And
I don't think it's even close.
It's getting closer again, though. Garrett Cole's having a great year.
I know he is.
So, and DeGrom's on the injured list right now. They avoided anything serious. I think it's time we start doing what this show's intentional purpose is going to be going forward. We're going to talk about the Cubs and the White Sox, and we're going to touch on a couple things that we talked about with Murray, which I'm pretty excited about. Let's roll into the Cubs. 17-19, fourth in the NL Central, just came off being swept by the Cleveland Indians, which is something the White Sox fans might not enjoy hearing. Early thoughts on the Cubs?
Yeah, they're definitely not, where Cubs fans want them to be. They'd rather them be, a better than 500 team. But, I mean, we talked about it with Robert that, you have guys like Baez and Rizzo just aren't playing to their full potential. And Chris Bryant's having a phenomenal year, but a mix of that and then their pitching, Zach Davies isn't performing to what they were hoping when they acquired him. And we all know about Kyle Hendricks' struggles. So, I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall to why they're not performing to how Cub fans expect them to be.
Absolutely. And you brought up Bryant. I have his stats written down here. He's slashing 308, 400, 650. That's a 1,000 or a 1.050 OPS. That's MVP level. You're in the high 900s, low 1,000s, and like that's MVP. Like Mike Trout is always in the high 900s. Mookie Betts, Bellinger. That's where all those guys are every year. He's got 9 home runs, 22 RBIs, 1.7 WAR already. He could be looking at an 8 or 9, maybe even 10 WAR by the end of the season if he keeps this up. He, along with, some other prominent players on his team are on expiring contracts right now. Chris Bryant's been awesome, and Chris Bryant's never been better, and the team's never been worse.
Yeah, that just shows is that you need the whole lineup to be in there.
Absolutely. He hasn't really played this well on a team this kind of lowly. Every time he's been in the league, they've been really, really good. So I don't think they would be where they are. 17-19 saying where they are, that's not great. I don't even think they'd be that good if Bryant wasn't doing what he's doing.
Yeah. He doesn't lead his team in RBIs, though. That goes to Baez, which is kind of surprising. So is Baez really having I know RBIs isn't everything, but is he really having a terrible, terrible year? Yeah, he strikes out a lot. But I think it could be worse for Baez, and I think it's something to build off of. I'm not counting Javier Baez out. But I mean, like Robert said, I think his trade value is definitely not what it was at one point. So I mean, I think Anthony Rizzo is really the guy you just got to look at and be like, you need to be better. I think out of the big three, he's definitely been the worst.
Yeah, well, no one's ever going to get Baez to stop striking out on pitches 2 feet off the plate. That's just kind of like in his DNA. You got to take the good with the bad with that. The leading the team in RBIs is nice, but it's not like it's an overwhelmingly great amount where like it makes up for his abysmal batting average or OPS. He'll always be good defensively. I don't think he straight up stinks. I don't know if I think he's gonna fall off the league or anything like that. Like there's a place for Javier Baez in the MLB, and I also think there's room for him to return to form.
Yeah, exactly.
How often do you see guys in any sport, they fall off for a year or two? Like, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, he was second place only to our guy Yelich in the MVP race just a couple years ago. And then the following year also had a really good year again. And people laughed at me for saying I was content with Tim Anderson as the shortstop of the White Sox when they had Baez. Well, now who would you rather have?
Yeah, I agree.
So the big three, Baez, Rizzo, Bryant, let's say they have to choose two of the three. Who you got
To keep?
to keep?
Yeah, I just pretty much said it. Bryant and Baez. Rizzo is replaceable at this point.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I think I would say
You're
Rizzo.
getting rid of Baez?
I would trade Bryant now.
Oh, so you're saying trade Bryant for the value? I mean, yeah, you definitely, especially if he continues like his pace now, then yeah, you're looking at a pretty good return, especially if it's deadline.
Absolutely. Luis says the biggest offseason acquisition was the ESPN announcer, Boog Sciambi. He's getting mixed reviews. I know the White Sox ended up taking Len Casper from them, and he's in their radio booth now. Yeah, I would trade Bryant for whatever I can get for him and start a rebuild. There's no, in my opinion, because Rizzo is a good first baseman, there's no contract that he can be given that will hinder the Cubs from winning the World Series over the next 3 to 5 years. Because they're not going to win it this year or next year. Anything can happen 3 years or further for any team, in my opinion. There's no contract that could realistically be given to him that would hinder that. Because even if he makes around what Goldschmidt makes, who's like one of the higher paid first basemen in the league, I don't think it's anything more than what Rizzo can get and keep them from doing something else.
Yeah.
So, and the thing that's been in the chat the most so far from the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks. What do you got on Kyle Hendricks?
Yeah, definitely not been their, best pitcher. He's got a 6.23 ERA and a 1.67 WHIP in 34 innings pitched. So he's pitched more than Arrieta and Davies, and his stats are not there. He's just, you look at having Kyle Hendricks and you want him to be a guy you're going to get a win when he's starting, and it's just not that. And they haven't been getting it really from Davies either. Davies lately has been better, but if Kyle Hendricks is having a great year, maybe this team's record is north of 500. I would say it is, but you look at why they've been struggling, and yeah, you can blame the hitting, but I think you got to blame it just as much on some of their starts that they've been getting.
Absolutely. It just, the fact they're 17 and 19 and still in range of finding it and not being too far buried, like a team like the Twins, they have all the talent in the world. They could come out of this and rattle off a bunch in a row and get right, but they're 12 and 22, so like it's a way deeper hole than 17 and 19. The Cubs are in a way better spot than other talented teams that are struggling so far.
They're in a better spot than most fourth place teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
the season's still very young. It's still very young.
Yeah, before getting smoked by Cleveland, they were right there for second.
Yeah.
Yeah, Giolito and Kyle Hendricks both on CBS Fantasy Sports worry list. I'm way and kind of unbiased. Like I might sound biased just by looking at my hat, but I'm way less worried about Giolito. He has A+ stuff, and he's run into some bad luck. His ERA is raised because of the one bad Boston inning. And then, of course, when Tony La Russa left him in after 110 pitches for another inning, and he gave up the 2-run home run, that wasn't good. I think he has the stuff, and I also think he has the mentality and the leadership around him to kind of come back from that. We'll get to Giolito in the White Sox rotation in a minute, but speaking of that, if you made an all Chicago baseball rotation, would a single Cub make it? Taking the 5 best pitchers from either team, I would argue Dallas Keuchel doesn't even make it, and he's a Cy Young World Series champion. That's just a fine pitcher.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
It would honestly probably be Giolito, Lynn, Kopech, Cease, and Rodon right now. It's hard to take Keuchel or any Cubs pitcher over any of them. And there are lots of Cubs pitchers I like, and I really like Dallas Keuchel.
I'm not gonna give up on Zach Davies yet. I think very highly of him, and in his last 3 starts, he actually has put together some good starts. I think he went 7 recently, and a couple games ago he went 7 straight without giving up a run, and he was just on. So I'm not going to count Zach Davies out, and I think he would be the only one to potentially make that list. But you're right. I mean, yeah, the White Sox pitching is far and away better than the Cubs.
Absolutely. You know what's the knock on Davies? He came back in the Darvish trade where the Cubs didn't really get the prospect capital that the fans thought they were going to get.
Yeah.
So you want to transition over to the White Sox after some pretty good Cubs breakdown? I mean, the point of this right now is to just kind of catch everyone up to speed on where they are right now and our opinions on that. And then we'll have more like a bi-weekly, like condensed focus on what's going on lately as the shows go on.
Yeah, before we do go into the White Sox, I do want to, preview this 3-game series against Detroit. I think it is possible that they come out of this series north of 500. I think Detroit's pretty bad. And if there's a series to, figure it out, it's right here against Detroit. So we'll stay tuned this weekend for that.
Absolutely. The Tigers are bad.
They're bad, yeah.
Like
So,
they're
playing
competing
them
top overall bad.
Yeah, playing them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, I mean, would you be surprised one bit if they're 20-19 at the end of this year?
No, certainly not. I mean,
Exactly.
The White Sox took 2 or 3 from them, and the game that they lost was the game that La Russa left Giolito in too long, and that hurt his ERA.
Yeah.
So, moving on over to the White Sox, 21-13, first place in the American League Central Division. They're good, man.
Mm-hmm. They just passed up Boston. So I don't see, I'm looking at the standings now. We talked about Oakland with Robert and how good of a year they're having. Houston's having a really good year. I think Houston will pass up Oakland eventually because they're just playing some good baseball. But the Chicago White Sox, and it's good to note, their run differential leads the league by 20. They're sitting at 64 where Houston is at 44. And that to me is just a mix of their dominant pitching, being able to throw any guy out there on any given night, whether it's Cease, Rodon, Keuchel's been good. He's had some good starts. And then Giolito, we know he's good. Yeah, he had a couple, not so great starts. But the mix of their pitching rotation and the fact that it seems they can put up 8 runs on any given night without Eloy, I don't see that slowing down. There's just too many things that need to turn off for them to just not keep this pace and at least take the I'm going to say they're going to take the whole American League.
Absolutely. They're in a race with the sorry about the ding. It's not much I can control on that. The division, the Royals were looking like they were in contention with them for a minute there, and then they decided to lose 10 in a row. And then there's Cleveland, who certainly is a team in contention to take the division. And I'm just not scared of them long term because of the fact that they rely so much on pitching, and their offense is not good. Like, they beat the Cubs 2-1 in the most recent game. It's not like they drop so many runs like the White Sox do. They have been no hit twice. So that offense is not good. Out of every team in the division, they're the scariest because of the pitching, besides the White Sox, of course. And I'm just not too scared of their offense, doing enough to keep over 162. It's not a 60-game season anymore.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not really too worried about Cleveland. Like you said, especially if they're going to be playing the White Sox a lot. And if they can't hit and the White Sox can pitch, the matchup just favors the White Sox. And I feel that way pretty much about every team in the Central. So.
Absolutely. And Shane Bieber would be the ace of Chicago baseball if he were here.
Yeah.
But, you get over him and
is he beatable? I think he's beatable.
He's beatable. The Cubs even got a couple knocks against them.
Yeah, we saw him in person against the White Sox, and that game we weren't out of that game at any point really until.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
One of the things that have helped the White Sox come to this streak right now has been Jose Abreu. He started off kind of slow. Things weren't going perfectly for him. Then all of a sudden, boom, he's been a monster. He's in the 30s for RBIs already. he's just been so hot lately, and I think he drives the White Sox bus. What do you got on Jose?
Yeah. He's picking up, I don't want to say right where he left off, because, you're coming off an MVP year. It's like, are you going to do that again? But he's certainly not disappointing. And yeah, he started off, I think, did he have that grand slam on the first couple games, or 2 grand slams in the first series? And then he kind of, slowed down, obviously. But right now, it's when he comes back up to bat, that's the guy you want.
Absolutely. And he's got guys like Yohan Moncada and Tim Anderson hitting ahead of him. He's got RBI situations around him more than he ever has in his career. And early in his career, he was a premier run producer. So now that he's got all this talent around him and the team's pitching well, and there's just so many good opportunities, there's no doubt that he was going to take it to the next level once the team got better, and he certainly has.
Yeah. And like you said, it helps with the guys who are batting in front of him. Tim Anderson that guy comes up to the plate, and it helps he's the first batter, because he's ready to get it started right away.
Absolutely. Today he put the White Sox up 1-0 on the first pitch of the game.
Yeah.
And before our show started, we were doing a little pregame meeting, and I was mother effing Jake Lamb because he missed a throw to first base, like one that he absolutely should have had, like a Brady would have had it. And he came out the following inning after this show had started and hit his first home run of the season. Lambo making up for that, but still not a fan of him playing first base today. I stand by that.
Yeah. Is it just an off day for Jose?
Yeah. A guy that we like to talk about a lot. We actually tasted his burger. It was delicious. Yermin Mercedes. Robert brought him up. That guy. I mean, he wouldn't have made the team if Eloy didn't get hurt. They probably would have kept either Lucroy, or they would have kept Danny Mendick up with the top squad. And that guy's awesome. He leads the American League in batting average right now. People were wondering, okay, hot started 8-0 in his career. When is he gonna kind of tail off? Because it's inevitable. No 28-year-old rookie can ever keep this up. He hasn't slowed down. Doesn't look like he's ready to stop hitting anytime soon. What do you got on your mean?
Yeah, he is. He might be. I mean, Eloy is pretty fun at the plate, but he might be one of the most funnest guys to watch. Just when he comes up to the plate, he is not coming out of the lineup. He's going to put the White Sox in a very tough situation, a good situation to be in when Eloy comes back and Robert's healthy, and whenever that is. It's going to be a tough situation because Yermin's not coming out of the lineup, and he's their DH. But, I mean, he has just been fun to watch. And like you said, not slowing down, and I love it.
Hear me out on this. I would keep Adam Eaton out of the lineup. I would move Vaughn to right, put Eloy back in left, have Yermin DH. Some people don't like the thought of Eloy playing the outfield again after what happened. But, I mean, they really don't have a choice up to this point, in my opinion, because you need the bats in the lineup. And he's bad defensively, but he's bad defensively when he tries to make a play. I believe he can train himself to just make the routine play and be an average outfielder, which is all they need.
That is all they need, but I've also seen him just suck at being an average outfielder.
Yes, but I think the things that make him a bad outfielder are coachable. Don't run into the wall, don't jump into the net, and don't try to rob home runs that are clearly uncatchable.
Even I think it's just his outfield, baseball common sense. There's times where he'd run all the way to Robert, and Robert would just stand there and kind of have to back off because Eloy is just going to do his thing. I don't think there's any teaching that. And all last year, I said Eloy just needs to be a DH, and you need to bite the bullet and have him DH. Now it's impossible to do that unless, it's impossible to do that. Yermin's not, playing the outfield. But
no, and you brought up Robert. Because Robert's in center and he's a freakazoid athlete and Eloy's not, you say, Eloy, this is where you cover, and it just has to be a small circle portion of the outfield. Robert's got the rest.
You don't think anyone has ever said that to him?
Based on what I've seen? No.
I've seen balls drop in front of him even. Like,
yeah.
I've seen him straight up miss balls.
Okay, and how do you feel about like mentality? Like
I don't believe in that. I think he'd be okay as a DH. It's not an option now, but I know you. I remember you bringing that up that it's a mental thing being a designated hitter, and I don't see that. I think you're Eloy. You know you're really good at batting. You go up there and you bat, and that's your job.
that guy loves playing the outfield. I've heard him say it. And he's interested in seeing if playing the outfield. He doesn't want it to take away from him being in the game, if that makes sense.
I know, but if he's a liability for this team out there,
The biggest liability is him hurting himself. To me,
yeah, that's always your number one.
Run scores are like last year, Kristen Yelich hit a home run because he was a doofus out there and inside the Parker. Stuff like that, I totally get. But like for the most part, he's gonna make the catch. I'd make the catch.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
he's also gonna drop it, and it's gonna cost him. I don't
So
know.
you think he's straight up a bad outfielder?
I think he's a terrible outfielder. Yeah,
I mean,
I've never seen an MLB outfielder that bad.
I agree. I just think it's like it's crazy to me that it can't just be simplified. That's all it needs to be is simplified. We don't need him to be Luis Robert.
I know, but I don't think it's hard to get a guy to do that when his natural instinct is taking over.
Yeah. Hey,
His natural instinct at the plate is to go up there and crush the ball. He
Yeah.
does that. That's like telling him, like, hey, don't hit it so hard. He's
Well-
not going to be able to do that.
I have a take on Jimenez in terms of hitting. I think he's one of the 5 best power hitters in the league. Like, I think 40 home runs and 120 RBIs were in his future this season. He was smoking it in spring training. He's always an elite hitter.
Yeah.
So, speaking of another guy who we want to become an elite hitter, we think he can, is Andrew Vaughn. First career home run yesterday. It was great to see. The kid who caught the ball got a little bit of memorabilia in exchange for the ball. I thought that was pretty cool. He was forced to play left field in Eloy's place, and he was going to be the DH to start the season as an inexperienced MLB bat. You got anything on Andrew Vaughn?
Yeah, I like Andrew Vaughn. And congrats to him for getting his first home run. And I actually like him in left. I like him in left a lot. So, I mean, I don't hate your idea. What did you say when Eloy comes back? And Robert, you
put Eloy back in left.
And Vaughn in right?
Vaughn in right, bench Eaton, make him a platoon/bench player, and keep your mean at DH.
I think Vaughn would have to switch off with Eaton. I like Adam Eaton a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, when the team is fully healthy, he's the worst hitter in the lineup. And you could argue he's like the 10th or 11th best hitter. He was a little.
He went to Washington in between, right?
He was traded for Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez and Dane Dunning, who was traded for.
He was awesome for the Nationals in their World Series run, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he went there, got a ring, and came back.
Yeah, and he not only went there, got a ring, he was successful for the Washington Nationals.
Yeah,
hitting a couple big home runs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to just take him out permanently. I don't think they're going to have a set, left, center, right, those 3 guys every single game. With your 100% best roster. I see Vaughn staying in the mix because he's not a liability. So, and if it's in right or left, it doesn't really matter. What if Eloy? I mean, there's really no has he ever tried the infield or anything?
No, he's
No,
that's asking for even more disaster.
No,
You're him the worst outfielder you've ever seen, and you want him to field ground balls.
Well, it depends. It depends what he's bad about in the outfield, and I feel like he's just bad on reading the ball and positioning. And
so the number one important thing you need to be an infielder.
Yeah, but it's different when the ball is 300 feet in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the infield to me.
Yeah, I was just curious, and there's really nowhere for him to play. But
Moncada at third, Tim at short, Madrigal at second.
Yeah, exactly.
For now, Abreu at first, then it'll be Vaughn when Abreu's gone.
Exactly. It's a tough situation because I do like Vaughn in the outfield. So
yeah, and he kind of looked like shaky at first when he first started, and then he started to get like used to it, and now he actually looks like a left fielder.
Santiago says Eloy should be traded. Could get a boatload.
Absolutely not. I couldn't disagree with that more. Eloy Jimenez is the best hitter on the White Sox, and you'll see that when he comes back. He won a Silver Slugger last year. That guy he's got 50 home runs and 120 RBIs in him. I'm telling you. That's an elite hitter that if you trade, like, if I was a Cubs fan, I would be livid that he's gone.
If only he had the glove and outfielding abilities as a guy like Mookie Betts, you're looking at
an MVP.
An MVP, yeah.
He could win the MVP on his bat. If he has a fielding percentage of 90% and, you know, all the home run accolades I named, yeah, no. Eloy Jimenez, to me, I believe
he's not tradable. I don't think he's tradable.
I think he's the most. This is going to sound ridiculous. Some people aren't going to agree with me. I think he's the best hitter on the White Sox. No player's untouchable. I agree with that. But I better get a guy with his equal bat, which I don't see. I need an equal bat if I'm trading Eloy Jimenez at 26 years old or whatever the heck he is.
And who's going to give you an equal bat when
Who has an equal bat?
Exactly. Who's going to give you a somewhat equal bat even when they're in return getting a shitty outfielder?
And there is something that makes Eloy borderline untradeable. Besides being an elite player, he signed a team-friendly deal before he ever stepped foot on the field. The White Sox took a huge, monumental risk by giving him all that money before he even took a single pitch in the MLB. But now, in hindsight, it's a team-friendly deal because he's locked up for 6 years on what would be considered like an entry deal. Now, if he would have been a bust, that would have been a complete waste of money. Like, you give that much money to a bust, that's crazy. But because it's such a team-friendly deal for the next 6 years, yeah, he is borderline untradeable for that reason, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he's untradeable. Just like you said, his bat is unreplaceable. You're not going to get a bat like that in return. And what else do the Sox really need?
I mean,
yeah, every team could use
to be healthy.
Exactly. But every team, you could say every team can use, like, you know, a top pitcher, but they're not going to get that. No team's giving that up right now.
See, I don't think they need two young pitchers. They have Garrett Crochet and Michael Kopech in the bullpen. Jared Kelly, you might have heard of him. He's one of their top pitching prospects. He's awesome. And their bullpen is the best in the league. When they play to their potential, they could be the best in the league. Their starting rotation is the best in the league. And Jimenez, if Jimenez hit the free agent market right now, he would make $250 million. I believe that. And it's a team-friendly deal. Any team that they would have every team lining up if they put him on the market. That just is how valuable he is to me. But you want to move on to White Sox pitching?
Yeah. We kind of alluded to it.
We brushed over it a couple times in the show. It's hard not to when you talk about the White Sox. It's Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, Dallas Keuchel, Dylan Cease, Carlos Rodon. That's how it lined up to start the season. And the guys who you would expect to be the best are also great, but the guys who you expected to be like question marks are the ones who have taken the reins and run with it, like Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon.
And even Lance Lynn.
Well, Lance Lynn is a perennial, like, all-star level pitcher with the Texas Rangers. He won the World Series with the Cardinals. I think he came in 6th for Cy Young last year playing for the Rangers. He was their ace, and now he's just one of the dudes. So I've always thought Lance Lynn was awesome. He actually just had a huge celebration on the screen as we speak right now, as he struck out a Minnesota Twin with the bases loaded. So, you know, they keep the lead right now. Lance Lynn's amazing.
So do you kind of put him in the same boat as Keuchel, or him and Keuchel kind of like right
Lance
there?
Lynn is way better.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. For me, like Keuchel, to me, if you inject Kopech into the rotation, Keichel's the guy who comes out.
I know. I figured you'd say that because when you mentioned the 5 best, you said Keuchel probably.
And that's no disrespect to Keuchel. He's been great.
I know.
Yesterday he gave up 3. I think it was 2, and then 1 was credited to him thanks to the bullpen. I love Keuchel. He's a Cy Young winning World Series champion. You don't disrespect Cy Young World Series champions, in my opinion. And that's what he is. And it just goes to show how good the White Sox are when a guy like that might be your sixth pitcher. I'm not against the 6-man rotation either, personally. In the regular season, you go down to 4.
Yeah, I mean, especially as playoffs approach, like, and in the playoffs, like you do what you need to, and you pitch you can to win a playoff game.
Yeah, we had that argument in 2018 when the Red Sox made their run. Everyone was worried about their bullpen, failing to realize that if the series was about to end and Chris Sale was done, he could come in for the 8th or 9th inning.
And that's what happened. Chris Sale.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah.
He threw the last pitch of that 2018 World Series. I think he struck out Machado on the Dodgers.
So yeah, I mean, my favorite pitcher isn't even in that rotation, and I can't wait to see him in that rotation. And that's Michael Kopech. When this guy steps on the mound, my eyes are glued. It's one of the rare situations I'd rather see my team on defense than offense. And I'm sure a lot of people are like that, but me, I like watching my guys bat.
Well, yeah, it's like when the Bears are on, their defense is always better than like the 85 Bears. Their defense was the best ever, but you want to watch your team score points. That's when you give yourself the best chance to win the game.
Not when Kopech's pitching. When Michael Kopech's on the mound, I'm like, okay, let's see him.
You go from a White Sox fan to a Kopech fan when he's on the mound. It's electrifying. Have we ever had a pitcher like that? Chris Sale, I guess, was kind of like that. But like after a while, Chris Sale was like on a bunch of bad teams, and he never got to be used. Chris Sale started in the bullpen, but he was never a super weapon like Kopech just because the White Sox weren't very good.
Yeah.
And if he's considered a super weapon going into the playoffs, where he's just that long reliever in the bullpen. Remember Andrew Miller? He was on the Yankees. Then he ended up on the Twins for a minute. Or not the Twins, the Indians. He's just a long reliever who throws gas and is really, really good. And then you go from starter to super weapon to closer. Like that's what I think the Sox are going to try and do with Kopech in the playoffs. And they have that with Garrett Crochet a little bit too. He's a little younger. That's unique to this year. And maybe next year with Crochet. But for the most part, it's unique to this year because those guys are going to be in the rotation one day, and then you weaken your bullpen by doing that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about Crochet. Is he?
Garrett Crochet has Michael Kopech level electric stuff. He's just so young where you have to be careful. Like he was drafted last June, and the baseball draft's a little different than hockey or football. Like it's in the middle of the season. Those guys don't normally play for a couple years. Mm-hmm. The pandemic canceled the college baseball season. So his season at Tennessee was over, before it even started, thanks to the coronavirus. And the White Sox were like, yeah, all right, we'll give him a chance. They pulled him up. He was playing on the, I don't know if you want to call it the taxi squad last year or the alternate site. And then they were like, they called him up. And the first inning they gave him, he threw the fastest pitch the league saw all season, 102.2 or whatever it was. And he didn't give up a run. And this year the velocity was down a little bit to start. Then he went on the 10-day IL. And when he came back, they were totally like, fully back in on him again because the velocity was up again. He was throwing 98 miles an hour and didn't give up a run. So Kopech is the 85 Bears. Yeah, definitely. Just call him the refrigerator. Crochet, he's got the leg kick. He throws at 98 and his breaking stuff, man, that goes 82 miles an hour. It literally looks like a snail. So I think Garrett Crochet is a Joey type pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, is he eventually is the goal to get him out of the bullpen and have him be?
Yes, I think so. He's a starter for sure. And I think the plan was for him to start the playoff game, the third playoff game last year. And then Rick Renneria ended up giving it to Dane Dunning, but then pulled Dunning so quickly and went to Crochet. And then he got pulled because of an injury and people were worried about Tommy John. And then a couple weeks later, Rick Hahn came out and updated everyone and said that's not Tommy John. It was just elbow whatever, and it is what it was. But I certainly think Crochet has a very high ceiling, and I think he'll be a Joey type pitcher. Absolutely.
Well, we'll see. If your ideal 5-man rotation right now can include Crochet and Kopech, what is it? I'm assuming it's Giolito, You're going to have Kopech in there and probably Dylan Cease. Maybe.
For 2021, no, I would not include Kopech.
No, let's say like these guys like as they are supposed to be. So you can fast forward like next year, the year after, as they're supposed to be.
Then yeah, I would say Lucas Giolito, Garrett Crochet, Dylan Cease, Michael Kopech, and who am I missing?
Lance Lynn or Keuchel?
Well, Lance Lynn and Keuchel will probably be gone by the time those guys reach their ceiling, and Rodon might even be. I'm actually going to give you a sleeper pick. I really like Jared Kelly. They took him in the second round of last year's draft, and the consensus on him, in my, based on everything I've read and researched, Kelly would have gone ahead of Crochet in the draft had there been a high school and college season. Kelly came out of high school, Crochet came out of college. It's a little weird thing about the baseball draft where like some are out of high school, some are out of college. If Kelly is that good, where he was considered a first round talent that fell because taking high school kids is a bigger risk, then what can he do? So I'm kind of all in on Jared. I could see them trading him too. That's the only thing we were talking about trading earlier.
You only have so many guys to bring into your rotation for the
like if you're a team like the White Sox looking for that big piece to acquire at the deadline, a guy like Jared Kelly goes the other way, especially since you already have Garrett Crochet up in the MLB level. Like if they were to trade for Bryant, you would figure that a guy like Kelly or someone around him in their prospect ranking would be part of that deal.
Yeah. Good stuff in the White Sox pitching.
Yeah, and they have a weekend series coming up against the Kansas City Royals. They just swept them. This time it's going to be a 4-gamer because they have a doubleheader on Friday, and Michael Kopech is going to be the 7 o'clock game starter. So everybody grab your popcorn, get your snacks from 7-Eleven, the local Jewels, and get ready for that 7 o'clock start because it's going to be electric factory.
Yeah. Before we get off the White Sox here and their pitching, what do you think about what we've seen from Liam Hendricks this year? Not exactly what you expected, or
no, not at all yet. And I've noticed save situations have been better for him than non-save situations. Lately, the White Sox have just clobbered every opponent they've played, so he hasn't been used in the ninth as much, and I think that's bad news. Like they put him in yesterday, and he looked rusty. Mm-hmm. But then after the rusty look, like I think the bases were either loaded or runners in scoring position, he got out of it. It was almost like he got in a rhythm, and like he's kind of a weirdo, like on the mound, like he screams at himself, and even before the pitch crosses the plate, he'll yell profanities, and like he's like a goalie who pitches in a way. I like the guy a lot. I think he's great for baseball, and I think he's a great pitcher. He's giving up a home run like 1 out of every 14 fastballs, and that can't happen. I do think that'll get cleaned up. He throws very hard. It's a long season, man. Mm-hmm. And he's in a new city, new team, new teammates. Ethan Katz, new pitching coach to the organization and him individually. He's got the stuff to really come around and be a top postseason closer. I need them to get him more work. They're winning 2-1 right now in the 5th. I imagine he gets in this game.
Yeah, and we talked about their run differential and how good they've been. They can put up, seems 8 runs on any given night. So yeah, if they're dominating teams, you're not going to get the action from Liam that you kind of hoped for, but it's a good thing. But as they start playing some more competitive baseball games, you're going to want him to be, the type of player that they were hoping for.
Exactly. And people can get on them for making that signing. First of all, everyone loved the signing the second it happened, and I still kind of do. It was either him or Alex Colomé. And a little update on Alex Colomé. He's been so brutal for the Minnesota Twins that they booted him from being the closer, and he's now one of the setup men in their bullpen. He stinks so far this season. So if you're choosing between Colomé or Hendricks, you made the right decision already. He's already got saves. His strikeout rate is like 23-2 or something crazy like that. Strikeout to base on balls rate, of course. So I'm all in on Liam Hendricks, actually. I'll say it. Yeah, he's given up a couple solo shots every so often with the fastballs, but yeah.
Yeah, he's got 24 strikeouts and 13.2 innings pitched.
Do you have his walks?
I don't.
That's okay. I know it's less than 3. So like the ratio is just ridiculous. And I don't really see it stopping anytime soon. His stuff is awesome. He's just got to he's got to fix the home run thing.
Yeah.
So
Which will come as he gets more reps, right?
absolutely. Have you ever heard of April Arm? I know it's May, but for
Yeah.
Hendricks, it's April.
April Arm, especially for a team that doesn't really need you as much as.
No, and they're gonna need him.
Oh yeah,
They're not scoring 9 like this. This is a tight game to close out the series. They're not scoring 9 runs.
And look at all the playoff teams, the successful playoff teams. You need that guy to come in and finish that game. Playoffs are close games.
Yep. And like we said with Sale closing out the World Series, that was just one of their options. Dirty Craig, who plays for the Cubs now, oddly enough,
Who's
Dirty
doing
Craig is great. So like you need the closer, you need starters. Baseball is it's like every sport's like this. I don't like when people try to. I know quarterback's super important to football, but at the same time, you need all 22. Like baseball's the same way. You need all hands on deck to do well, and if you don't have that, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah.
So Liam Hendricks will get it figured out. You made a prediction on the Cubs against the Tigers. You think they're sweeping them? What do you got on the Royals? 4-game set, doubleheader tomorrow.
3-1.
3-1.
It's hard to even give them that one, but a 4-game sweep is tough in the MLB.
Especially when one of them's a doubleheader.
A 3-game sweep is hard enough, let alone a 4. But I mean, the White Sox. I don't know if anyone bets in here, but they're a moneymaker right now. You're getting them at a low favorite. Seems like every game they're like no more than minus 120, and it doesn't seem to matter who's on the mound. So right now, the Chicago White Sox are your money-making team. They, until proven wrong, bet the White Sox, and I'm probably going to take them every game this series, knowing I might lose one of them. But
absolutely, I agree with Noel trading Eloy about being the worst idea. They're not trading Eloy. You got nothing to worry about. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like they could sweep them, but if they sweep Minnesota, that would be 6 wins in a row. If they sweep them, they sweep the Royals. That's 10 in a row. Do we think they're winning 10 in a row?
Yeah, it's hard to ask.
And like you look at the pitching matchups, it's like you're going to see Carlos Rodon, Giolito, Kopech, and Cease again on Sunday. You like all those guys against any Royal pitcher, but like you just don't win 10 in a row in baseball. It's really hard to even win 9 out of 10, which is what would happen if they lose this game to Minnesota, which they're currently winning. So it's like I'm with you. I'm going 3-1.
3-1. And
go ahead.
Which game you think they're losing? Giolito, Rodon, Cease, or I'm assuming Keuchel?
Kopech.
Oh, Kopech's going to start.
Kopech pitching the second half of the doubleheader.
Oh, that's right, the doubleheader. I skipped over.
We got to be together watching that, by the way.
Yeah, no, I forgot. I didn't see the doubleheader there. Yeah.
Santiago, we'll take your Patrick Kane thing in a minute because we're going to preview Bard on Blackhawk Talk too. Yeah, I'll go Rodon. And that's kind of a hot take because he's been their best pitcher by far. He's 5-0. They haven't lost a game that he started in. I don't know. If the Twins tagged him for 3 runs and they lost 3-2, I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, everyone loses eventually. Baseball's the game of failure.
Yeah.
They taught us from a young age. You got to figure it out and move on.
For me, so it kind of depends on what finishes here with this the game going on right now. I think tomorrow they lose the first game. Giolito they're going to lose that game, and then nighttime Kopech's going to come in and really put on a show, and then also they'll win Saturday and Sunday. So they're going to win the game 1 and then 3 straight.
Shitting on your guy Giolito, huh?
I'm not shitting on him. It's the safe bet right now.
Yeah, I guess. All right, so that concludes our Chicago baseball analysis. I think we did great work on the White Sox and the Cubs. We went a little more on the White Sox just because of the pitching. And quite frankly, there's more things to evaluate right now. Like it's just, we're going to give the Cubs equal time. I got some fun things planned for the Cubs. I'm excited. There are a couple storylines on the entire MLB as a whole that I wanted to talk about. We touched on the Oakland A's with Robert. They're more than likely going to move. It sounds like he's even all on board with them moving, and he's as plugged in as anyone I personally have a connection to. Where do you like to see the A's go?
I mean, I say follow the Raiders. I love the idea of having a baseball team in, Nevada, and what better city than Las Vegas? So I think that would be electric for the game. So I would love to see that.
Can
It's
I
kind
get a Viva from you?
of Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah. What were you gonna say? You sound like I interrupted you.
No, yeah, I think that would be awesome, and we've seen it, in the NHL. Their team in Vegas, Oakland's in Vegas. It just seems like it works. It's a fun place for those guys to be. So
Yeah, I mean the Golden Knights, they have major success with attendance and whatnot. That's quickly become a hockey town, and I don't think people realize what Vegas has turned into in terms of a sports town. And I think the gambling community has really helped with that. You and I both maybe not dabble with gambling a little bit. We're big fans of that, and I think Vegas is a great sports town actually. And if
Mhm.
the A's moved there, I heard Nashville um, putting a team in Charlotte is something I've read on Twitter. You'd have to realign with Nashville and Charlotte, though. Like with Vegas, you just keep the division, you keep the AL West exactly the way it is. I also read, I can't remember if it was an article in response to Passon's breaking news that this was a thing with the A's, changing the name from the Oakland Athletics to the Vegas Aces, and then you still call them the A's. What do you think of that?
I don't hate it, but I think it's unnecessary.
I agree. I would
They're,
keep the Athletics.
they're not moving for an organizational reason to the point where you need to change your name like that. I think they remain the Athletics and the A's, and
It's almost, if I read the story correctly, and I can obviously do more research, and I'm open to being corrected. It almost seems like a political thing, like the politicians
yeah.
have
So
their hands in this. So
it would seem unnecessary to do a full rebrand and change of the logo and name. So I hope they stay the Athletics.
me too.
I
I do
always
too.
I always thought that was a cool
It is,
name.
and they've moved more than once, and they still kept the name Athletics. So, like, if you go back and watch Field of Dreams, when all those players come out, when Dr. Graham saves little Karen's life, and there's the guy with the A's jersey, and it's still the green A, old school. I love it. I love the old school logos with baseball. It's really the only sport that I'm a grandpa with in terms of logos. I like the progression with the bat flips and I love all that, the swag. But in terms of logos, I give me the old stuff all day.
Yeah.
So, and the last kind of MLB topic will be a little more MLB focused next week when we have a little more time. Red Sox Yankees. That rivalry kind of stunk last year. The Red Sox weren't very good. The Yankees were a little too good. The year before, the Red Sox were very mediocre and the Yankees were good. The year before that is when they were 1-2 in their division. Awesome. You had the savage stuff. Aaron Boone saying we're savages in the box. And then the Red Sox wrote the word savages in the box on their World Series championship rings. The Red Sox currently lead the American League East with a record of 22-16, and the Yankees are right behind them after a very slow start. I might remind you, they are now 20-16 themselves, and they trail the Red Sox by 1 game. The Red Sox are 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Yankees are 8-2. I know you're a big fan of the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. That's actually probably one of the most prominent rivalries in our life. We used to watch Fever Pitch when we were little. We know all about the Curse of the Bambino. We were fans of all that growing up and still are to this day. And it means a lot to both of us, I believe. And I know it does for me. Red Sox, Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees definitely have been the better team lately. The Red Sox are kind of in a little bit of a slump right now, but I mean, I'm hoping Chris Sale comes back. And you said earlier that he's coming back when? Early June?
Yeah.
Their first series against the Yankees is June 4th. That's when I do believe both of these teams will be at the top of their division. It might be the Yankees on top. It might be the Red Sox. But those series between these teams, yeah, you can hate it. You can say everyone talks about it too much, but like, especially when both teams are good, you got, and leading up to this point in the season, you got Giancarlo Stanton hitting, cannons, and then JD Martinez hitting cannons over the monster. And it's just a fun series to watch. And I hope Chris Sale is able to be a part of that, because I would say the only thing right now for the Red Sox that they lack is their pitching. And I hope he comes back to that elite level, and I believe he will. You got Cole on the Yankees, who's having a phenomenal year, and then the Red Sox really don't have a guy like that. So right now, I guess I have to give the edge to the Yankees. I can't wait till these teams play each other, and that's always a series that I'm heavily invested in.
Absolutely. Garrett Cole, he's probably the favorite right now to be the American League Cy Young winner as of right now. But after that, it's a bunch of
It's so early.
And I saw that comment about leaving the Red Sox Yankee talk to ESPN. Yeah, I can't co-sign that just because, that's the rivalry. When you say the rivalry, that's Yankees Red Sox.
Don't sleep on LA, San Diego coming up though.
And let's insert the San Francisco Giants into the mix. Robert brought them in as a
happy surprise.
Yeah, he named them a positive surprise. I love Giants Dodgers, and if you insert the Padres into the mix, that California trio, it could be like Kings, Ducks, Sharks from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And if those three are battling it out for that NL West division, oh man, and I love that they're the late night games. Boston and New York, we watch kind of before the White Sox and the Cubs start, and then after the White Sox and the Cubs are over, we roll over to the California games. And I love seeing that kind of stuff. We have a White Sox update. Matt Foster relieves Lance Lynn in the sixth inning and retires the three batters he faced. So the White Sox are coming up to bat. It's not going to be every show where there's one of the two teams playing, although that might happen more often.
Those day games are not uncommon. The 1:10 starts.
Yeah, and especially with the Cubs. If we had the Cubs playing, we'll keep updated on that too. This is a White Sox Cubs plus all MLB podcast. So yeah, Red Sox, Yankees, and then the California teams. Those are my favorite rivalries to watch right now. I mean, how about you?
Yeah, I love when the Giants are good, and I actually do like the Giants a lot. Remember back in 2012 and 2014, I was rooting for them heavy. And the Dodgers, since acquiring Mookie Betts, and then their struggles to win the World Series, they lost to the Astros. They just seemed that they couldn't get it done, and then they finally did get it done. And I was so happy that they were able to, and that Mookie was a part of that. And so I don't hate the Giants. I actually do really like the Giants. I'm not a fan of the Padres. That being said, I loved all the antics and fun stuff that we're seeing. But yeah, like you said, those three teams, the three-headed California, beast, that's fun baseball to watch, especially if they're all going for it for that, division title.
And you got the A's, who are probably going to make the playoffs. They're my pick to win the West, the AL West. And it sucks that the Angels just continue to blow, even though they have the two best players in the league.
Exactly. It'll never make sense to me how they can't build around, the guy that they have, and now Ohtani. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it, how they're always kind of bad.
And they were looking really good to start the season. They took care of the White Sox like nothing.
Yeah, Trout was batting almost 500 at one point, though. You don't do that.
Yeah, it's unsustainable. And if those guys aren't leading the way, they're just not good enough. Quintana stinks. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough scene over there in the Angels organization. You got anything left on the MLB before we close this thing out?
Yeah, you said that Oakland is going to take that AL West. I could not disagree more. And I know a lot of people hate these guys. I don't. I really like them. I know that they were wrong, and I know that they cheated, and I know they know that they cheated. But right now, they're not cheating, and they're playing some good baseball. So give me the Houston Astros in that division. I'm a fan of them. I'm a fan of watching them play, and I'm glad that they're playing good now, despite everything that they've gone through. Yeah, it was self-inflicted, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't love them, but I just don't think they're as good as the A's. That's why I'm not picking them. It's not towards any hatred because of cheating. I just like the A's roster and how they're playing. I actually was hardcore rooting for the Astros when they were playing the Yankees because they were acting like it was a lock that they would have just won the World Series had the Astros not hit garbage cans.
The Dodgers probably would have dumped on the Yankees.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. The Astros do have a plus 44 run differential, and the A's have a -6. That you can
Yeah,
put all the
no,
stock you want into that.
that's an issue. But the A's did start 0-6, so that could be them still catching up from that.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it also could be like when they win, and when they win, they barely win, and then when they lose, they get smoked. Like that's not great.
Yeah.
But you need to be playing good baseball at all time. Right now, it's going to be a fun division to watch. I definitely think it's down to those two already, and we're only in May, so it's good stuff, and it's fun watching the Astros kind of go on this like year delayed hate tour.
Yeah, right. Finally got fans, so now they're finally being booed.
Yeah, the only thing that is annoying is kind of like how Jose Altuve is handling it, like he's a victim. He's not a victim. Like you cheated. Like what do you want?
A lot of people suffered. Like people were, fired. Jobs were lost. Jobs were lost for people who aren't even on the team anymore.
Yeah, and the
And,
scrutiny forever too.
yeah, so that's kind of why someone like me, not a fan of the Astros, but I don't also believe that I think they were a good team that cheated. I believe that they were the best team that cheated.
Yes.
So it pissed me off when people would say, "Oh, the Astros, maybe they're not even that good anymore." No, they're a good baseball team. I truly believe that the guys that they had in that 2017 group, if they wouldn't have cheated, still would have been as dominant as they were. I truthfully believe that.
Would a minor league player be able to hit a ball off Aroldis Chapman to Pluto if he knew it was coming, a fastball? No.
I think they still would be World Series champs, to say the least.
Yes, I kind of do too. Now, and people were like wondering why they stunk last year, the first year after getting nabbed cheating. Yeah, they still made the playoffs, but they were 28 and 30, whatever. Like they were under 500, but the expanded playoffs allowed them to get in. They won a playoff series, and they were missing Cole, who went to the Yankees, and Verlander was injured. That's
Keuchel.
Keuchel's been gone for a couple years now, but
He wasn't with the cheating team?
Huh?
He wasn't with the cheating team?
No, he was with the cheating team.
Yeah, so
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the team in general, the 2017 Astros team in general is a phenomenal baseball team. And yes, they cheated. So it's just I don't like hearing that they suck because they cheated and they were never actually good. So that's why I like seeing the Astros succeed now without them cheating.
Barry Bonds cheated, and he's probably the best hitter ever. He didn't need to cheat.
That's a different type of cheating that we can get into, whether that's
Yeah, no, but my point remains that like he was elite and then made it worse.
Yeah.
Like that's what the Astros did. They were elite and then they made it worse.
If you were a guy though, let's say you were a guy and you were really good at something.
Mm-hmm. Doing this show.
Yeah, okay. And let's say someone called you out like this. Let's say that you're naturally awesome at doing your job. And then you know you're good, and so you cheat to do a little even better, to do better.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you get caught, and everyone thinks that you are nothing because you cheated. So now that you're not cheating, you want to be good, right? Yeah. It's the same way for me. It's like I want to see the Astros good now that they're not cheating and they're doing it, and I think they're going to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, my quarrel with that division isn't the Astros cheating or lack thereof. It's that I think the A's do very well for what they have.
Yeah,
it's all the A's for me, not the Astros.
Gotcha.
So good show.
Yeah,
I like the way this went for the first one. I just want to give a quick shout out to Robert Murray. That was an awesome interview. We would love to have you back. It's great to be a part of the baseball community on the Barroom Network now. We're kind of planting our foot with baseball and hockey now. And make sure you follow at Joey Parise on Twitter. I'm at Vinnie Parise. And then you could also follow Robert Murray at by Robert Murray. And he does great work for Fansided. He's a colleague of mine in that business. So you got any last thoughts before we let it go?
Yeah, thanks for everyone who tuned in, sent us questions, engaged in the chat. That's always fun. It makes our job easier. So we love seeing it. And thanks again to Robert Murray. He seemed very enthusiastic about potentially coming back in the future. So that would be, freaking awesome. So huge thank you to him.
And I just want to give a little hint to next week's show. I'm not going to say because, you never know if plans fall through, but I like to, give a little teaser. There's a guest next week that has over 250,000 Twitter followers. And if I can actually get him to come on the show, I think it would be great. And he could give a lot of insight to Chicago baseball pitching is my hint to you. I hope it comes through because it would be a whole lot of fun. I'm very excited. And I also want to extend one last thank you to Aldo Gandia for taking a chance on me and Joey. We appreciate it so much. This has been so great. The Barroom Network is awesome. I love every second of it. So, any last thoughts?
Yeah, Santiago. He says he's not available next week. Like he's the guest.
Oh, okay, Santiago. Well, we're gonna have to change it then.
I appreciate him chatting though. He's
absolutely. He's good people.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
We
will
talk to you. What did you want to preview real quick about Bar Down Blackhawk Talk next Wednesday?
Oh, Bar Down Blackhawk Talk. Make sure you watch it every Wednesday, 2 p.m. This show every Thursday, 2 p.m. And next Wednesday on Bar Down Blackhawk Talk, we're going to have a couple playoff games under the belt. We're going to be, in the mix of the playoffs, Blackhawks transactions over the summer, what we think is going to happen. Seattle's coming up, NHL awards. There's so much good stuff happening in the hockey world as well. So Bar Down Blackhawk Talk next Wednesday, 2 p.m. And then 24 hours later, we'll be right back here again. Aldo is the GOAT. I agree. For Joey, I'm Vinny. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.